Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Monday, June 3rd, 2024, and today we are sharing what to know and where to go about Michigan Central Station. It's reveal day, if you will, where media outlets, including us, across Metro Detroit, are able to share more information, more pictures, everything else about Michigan Central Station. And, Devon O'Reilly, there is nobody else who I'd rather talk about this with you. I am Jer Staes, and we both, along with Norris Howard and Cheyenne Wasserny of the team, but you and I today, we're going to talk about our tour of Michigan Central, which is, it's such a big deal for the city to see this old former train station come back to life.
Boy, Jared, let me tell you something. First off, to be able to pull me from a Friday to a Monday, it would take something transformational. So apologies ahead of time if I don't have my usual Friday disposition, but I'm trying to channel the excitement I had for this opportunity and this event that we had. And so, Jared, let's talk about it. We got to do this, and now I'm looking at social media. Anytime I go on any of the apps, they're just flooded with Michigan Central stuff. So let's take our usual kind of daily angle and look at what it really means and what people can actually expect from the train station whenever they do get a chance to go inside for the first time.
Yeah, because, there's a concert that's going to be streamed on Peacock. There's tours. There's all kinds of stuff. Oh, and before we get started, I want to mention this. My voice is a little tired between the Mackinac Policy Conference and being at Pride. So that's why I'm sounding a little rough this morning. I was not hitting it on a Sunday night. It's just been a long week.
Yes. I'm still kind of finalizing my recovery from Mackinac, and you did the Pride Day 2 thing. So it was... It's been crazy, Jared. But again, channel your excitement from that day when we got to visit the train station. Obviously, we can use all the superlatives: amazing, beautiful, stunning, immaculate at this point. But I think what you and I were both interested in is kind of day one, called day one, the day when the public is able to go inside and it officially goes online. Starting day one, what is it going to look like versus what is their vision for a year from now? And I think maybe that's kind of what we focus on, and then go beyond that.
For sure. I think the number one thing we need to talk about is that I know that a lot of people have a lot of questions about what's going in here. In fact, I even just posted some things on social media and whatever, and the first thing is I'm not clear on what's going to happen with this thing. And I think the first thing to mention is that this will not, especially at the start, like the train station is not in the cards for this.
No, certainly. I would say not yet. It'll never, I don't think it'll ever be, I don't say ever. I would not say that, but certainly not in the near term, any kind of functioning actual train station. Now, they did mention that they did keep intact some of the kind of light rail infrastructure. What it will be in very soon, Jer, is a place for kind of mobility, the big word mobility. So we're talking about using drone technology flying off the roof of the train station. We're talking about kind of radar and LiDAR utilized throughout the building, lower levels up on the top of the train station, because it's perched so well. It's like there's nothing even close to its height until you get to downtown. And so it really is perched well for a lot of different technologies to be deployed at the top of it. And so they are going to utilize that. You see the grounds, and Jer and I, when you and I walked around it, it almost felt like you were in some kind of getting into some kind of massive federal building like the Capitol. There was all these different kind of levels and walkways and loading areas. And I think there's, it looks boring maybe, but there's a lot of infrastructure that can be utilized for some of the companies that they're trying to attract and some of the companies that are already over there in that book depository building. Because let's remind ourselves that this is the grand piece, but there's a sister building over there that's been online for almost a year now that has tons of different technology startups and different partners at the state level. And so this is kind of also going to help deploy that. So that is something that you will soon see. But I want to start kind of at the beginning, Jer, and say that when we were getting kind of our tour through, Josh, the CEO of Michigan Central, pointed out that, when the public gets their first look at it, this is going to be probably the most pristine they see the train station in, because it's going to be very empty, not in a bad way. You're going to be able to see everything, but it's not going to be filled up yet. And I think that he talked about they're going to have some pop-ups, some small business pop-ups, and maybe some different vendors. But this is far, far, far from the finished product in terms of actually activating the train station. So when you go in for the first time, it's probably going to look very kind of pristine and sparse. And then I think we can spend some time talking about what we heard about what they want to fill it with. But that's the first thing you're going to think about is like, you're not going to walk in. Guess what? There's not a hotel in there. There's not a restaurant in there yet. There's not technically major offices in there yet. So it's really more to look at and take in the actual transformation and rehabilitation of the building.
Well, and they've been at work at it, but there are some very important but technical things that need to happen. For instance, zoning needs to get changed with that building before they can actually start like putting work into and announcing, say, the hotel. Because there's going to be a number of upper floors that will be taken over by a hotel, which, by the way, like when you're in that lobby, I can't help but be like, all right, this is a place everybody's going to want to get married in.
Yeah, not only that, I think we were looking at, there are probably multiple like wedding event venues, because you have that main, what are they calling that, Jared? The big main front space. What's my technical term for that?
I don't know. I kind of call it the grand lobby.
The grand lobby. The grand lobby is massive. You could have a whole wedding in there, and the rest of the train station could be active. And then there was also kind of that back end area on the other side of the building. That also we got to get our terms. I got to get our train station terms down. But there was a whole other area that could hold another massive, a couple 100+ person event. So like there are multiple massive wedding venues in here, wedding or otherwise, but you're certainly going to see a lot of weddings here. I feel like that'll be one of the hot tickets early on. But you did mention that, yeah, there's going to be a hotel, but there's some kind of things that need to happen first as far as zoning. In conversation, it seems like that's not going to be a huge issue. It has to go before city council, and they have to approve it, the rezoning, to make it a hotel. And then it sounds like the final restaurant concept in the big kind of main dining space. And if you're listening, Jer and myself are going to put up pictures of all these different spaces so you can kind of see, and you probably already see them because like you said, a lot of the pictures are very similar. But this grand dining space is not programmed yet, and it's going to take a while because the likelihood is it's going to be attached or, physically and actually kind of attached to whatever the hotel concept is. So whatever that becomes, that will inform what the dining concept will be.
Yeah, this building is a unique design because unless you're doing a train station, a building doesn't necessarily need to be laid out like this. And so there's going to be some challenges in how you program those lower floors, because you walk in that main door and you've got this giant, grand, amazing lobby with the Gustavo Vault ceilings and all this other stuff. Then you get shrunk down through where the ticket counters were. And then you open up again to the back. I don't want to call it lobby, but the back waiting area, to me, is one of my favorite spaces because of the amazing skylight that you can see that just illuminates the whole space in this beautiful, soft light.
Yeah. And still also, Jared, that I think when we were all kind of gathered in there, we almost all agreed that was one of the maybe the most beautiful space in the building, but also somewhat unfinished, because that's where they're talking about that kind of back end. Past that, there was still some construction and work that was getting done. And so that's where we still haven't even seen the finished product of what that's going to look like.
Yeah, and there is an old library. Like, it doesn't have books, but it was kind of a sitting area.
I love that room.
Oh, yeah, the wood paneling. Just absolutely stunning with the windows. And to see the old pictures and to see how much they've honored everything and recreated so much, it is absolutely beautiful. But again, this is going to be an interesting one to program because these rooms are huge for volumes of people that we just don't see anymore. So how they do this is going to be interesting. That back lobby with all the skylights, how are they going to partition this? Is it almost going to be like a business and food court? Like, there's so many ways and things to like program out on this. I think another thing that really stood out for me is how much this building gleamed. And I thought about this when the book tower got restored, because, we were all used to the book tower for years, looking basically like the Ghostbusters headquarters, but taller. And this being cleaned up, you realize something that gets to me. And this is that I understand the whole Detroit grit thing, and it's great for the Lions and whatever. But we need to remember that Detroit was a grand city, a top 5 in America, a wealthy
Paris
place.
of the West.
Yes, a true Paris of the Midwest. And I kind of like getting some of that swagger back, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think that's the line we're trying to draw, and I think the train station does a lot of that too. It's the combination of the grit with the nice things too. We can have both, and this is certainly a crown jewel of what's going to be an incredible area. And you said, Jer, the meticulous details, and we got a chance to actually talk to some of the people there. They had the pictures up. I don't know if they'll have. I assume they'll have the kind of before and after pictures up as you walk through them. But as you walk through the space, just to learn about how intentional they were about all the different details and restoration that they did, people have seen some of the stories. They opened up a quarry so they could get the right kind of stone for certain things. They had people reach out to them. You remember that kind of anecdote. There was people who either had worked at the train station or relatives worked at the train station and reached back out to Michigan Central to say, I've got this piece that I still have, and Michigan Central was able to make copies of it, make a mold of it, and then that's how they were able to restore those beautiful ram's heads to that library area. So they really, really went all out to restore this. No small feat. They clearly spared no expense. But yeah, it's still happening. They're going to have nonprofit spaces in there. They talked about some of those offices being for kind of nonprofits and small businesses. They're going to have Ford offices there. I imagine that'll be like a certain type, obviously Michigan Central team. That's very small though. Probably, maybe certain executives, certain people at Ford. And then this hotel that'll be amazing. And they haven't even finished that yet, because as we saw, Jer, that lobby entrance, I can't remember the carriage house. That's what it's called.
Speaking of the carriage house, somebody actually dropped off the clock, just without any warning, just here you go. Because there's so many interesting stories with this. And one of the ways you're talking about all these pieces getting reproduced, there's so much fabrication knowledge within Ford Motor Company that they were able to do so much of this work because they know how to replicate and scan and do all this stuff, which was fascinating to learn about.
Yeah, I'm sure, and it definitely seems like they leveraged all of their amazing engineers that work at the company to figure this stuff out. Also, Jer, something we want to point out that was pretty cool. When we were kind of walking around, someone had asked about the graffiti, and then they said, "Well, we'll get to that." So I hope if you get a chance to go inside, you notice that they have this whole kind of hallway on one side where they preserved the original, not original, I shouldn't say original. They preserved the previous wall or original wall with the graffiti on it, and they actually went so far as to catalog. You remember them talking about this, Jer? They actually went so far as to catalog all the graffiti that was in the train station, and they preserved this kind of hallway of graffiti. And so not only do they have it, but it's very particular. They could tell you this is the artist, and this is what they were doing. It was just amazing to see that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to this. If you think about all of the infrastructure for this, I know that a lot of people are like, it's a strong building and it was well built, and it was. But it's interesting to know how much water got behind walls, how much steel reinforcement had to be replaced. It looked like it was strong on the outside, but on the inside, they had to do so much work that pulled the project along. They had to pump out the basement a couple times because there was a basement, then a basement they didn't know about that they ended up having to fill with concrete because it would just keep flooding. There is all kinds of crazy stuff with this thing. Plans that were inaccurate and discovering stuff they didn't even know existed. It is bananas what they went through to make this thing go. And one of the things that really struck me is every time I had been in there before, as far as pre-tours and stuff like that, there was a very moist smell to everything. And now it's completely it feels clean in a deep way that was just wow, you can feel the difference if you'd ever been in the station when it was closed down. And so listeners know, I actually went to the station before it closed when I was 7 years old. So it was very emotional for me to walk through these lobbies and everything to be wow, this thing that my dad thought would never, ever get rebuilt got rebuilt.
Yeah, and I mean, I only was able to observe it and see it from the outside. I never was able to get in. It was very accessible. After it closed, people could wander in and kind of do their wandering around the abandoned train station. In later years, obviously, they put the fence up. And then one of the things they talked about on the tour was they want this to be a very open space. And so there's not going to be some intrusive fence that kind of keeps the public away from the train station. There's not going to be, a ticket collector at the entrance to kind of charge you money to walk in. Like, this is designed to be a space for the people, for the public. And so that's really cool. And there's going to be, the whole surrounding area. It's not even just the building, the whole grounds. When you talk about Roosevelt Park, you talk about the area behind the train station. Or as they're calling the south side of the train station, is going to start being programmed with all sorts of really interesting stuff. So this is like we said, Jared, this is going to be big, but people are going to have a little bit of patience, because it's not like on June 6th or 7th or 8th, you're going to see the fully realized vision. They even talked about even the kind of phase 1 is going to be launched throughout the summer. And so hopefully kind of the phase 1 is done around August, September of what their eventual plan is for this.
Well, before I let you go, man, I think we should reflect a little on what this maybe psychologically means for Detroit and the region, because this was the icon. This was the granddaddy of them all. It's interesting to talk about in the context of the plans and discussions about the Renaissance Center. You've got two icons, one with a future that we're not quite sure of, but one that is definitely rising and on the upswing, and what this means, and just the psychological boost for it, Devon?
Yeah, I think especially this coming on the heels of a wildly successful NFL draft, I think has repositioned us and affirmed our status as a one of the top cities in the country, and I think a global destination, whether that be global destination for art, for entertainment, for innovation. I think, we can talk about Detroit again as a national and global destination, and not for bad things, not for ruin porn, or to see blight in a positive light. I think this has cemented us as a national treasure of a city, a national hub for kind of innovation, revitalization, and basically, in 2 words, we're back.
For me, I think, I know that it doesn't like erase every issue that's still there of the city that I do believe is on the upswing, but there's still a lot of work to do. But what I do think it does is show that we can do great things. And at the end of the day, if you believe you can do great things, it's a lot better chance that you're going to be able to do them than if you're sitting there, in that space of, well, we can't do anything, or it's going to be demolished, or all that other stuff. And it's very personal for me, because that was kind of the attitude that a lot of my family, and especially my dad and others, were about Detroit. That there's nothing that can happen. It's lost, all that other stuff. I think that that's wrong. I think that, yes, there's work to do, but you know what? We can. And that matters. And I'm very emotional about it. And it's a very happy day for me.
Yes, it's going to be a very happy day for everyone. I'm, as people are hearing this, you may be in the process of, maybe you've got your tickets already. Maybe you're going to check it out afterwards. I know we got this huge celebration happening this week that I think is going to be broadcast on Peacock, right?
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah.
So the Thursday is just going to be this huge celebration. And so I'm looking forward to that and everything that kind of comes after that. And so please go check it out. You don't have to get in on the big party, even if you don't have tickets. The weeks after that, you're going to have a chance to just hang out, go there, check it out. It'll be really cool. And so I hope everyone kind of does get that feeling, because there is a lot of emotion that will probably come with being in that train station, especially if you had a chance to go in it before.
Well, we're going to leave it there. Thank you, Devon O'Reilly. Always good to talk to you. Thank you for making time on a Monday.
Of course, Jer. I mean, for this, I can make some time, but otherwise, please don't contact me on a Monday.
With that, I'm Jer Staes. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to drop 5 stars on your favorite podcast app and tell a friend about your daily Detroit. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around town. Talk tomorrow.
I believe what you truly desire, you can bring the past. All you need is focus and a story to hold. and the faith that